Don't touch that dial. You're tuned in to the Dread Podcast Network.
Welcome to Development Hell. For every horror movie that hits V.O.D, countless others end up D.O.A. Development Hell is the podcast dedicated to unearthing these cursed horror productions. We're going to find out what went wrong, and then decide if these titles still stand a shot at the green light. I am your host, Josh Korngut. I am the managing editor of Dread Central. I am also a filmmaker in Toronto, Canada. This podcast is a proud member of the Dread Podcast Network. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Development Hell. Today is a very exciting day for me because we're talking about a topic that I am very obsessed with. Listeners of this podcast probably already know how much I'm a fan of Are You Afraid of the Dark? But today's no average Are You Afraid of the Dark podcast episode. No. We are talking about Are You Afraid of the Dark, the movie. Yes, there was going to be an Are You Afraid of the Dark movie back in 2019-ish, and it never happened. Is it going to happen? Well, today we're going to find out. With me, we have a very special guest judge, Rainier Croft. How's it going? What's going on with you today?
It's going great. I'm so excited to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me. You totally nailed it. Are You Afraid of the Dark was one of our, especially as a Canadian, was one of our signature shows growing up in the 90s. So it's so great to have this platform to talk about our passion for the show and the movie, which we never got, but I'm super excited to get into with you.
I cannot wait. But before we get into it, I was wondering, could you introduce yourself to the Development Hell audience?
Absolutely. So hi, my name is Rainier Croft. I run the account Horror4Kids. Horror4Kids pretty much was/is my pandemic baby. I started it about 2 years ago, and what I wanted to do is just kind of create a really safe space for all fans of horror, no matter how old you were, no matter how big of a chicken you were growing up, or what you can and can't watch. It's intended to be a space where everyone, no matter your background, culture, gender, sexuality, can come and enjoy horror in a really fun and family-friendly light. So what that means is I post a lot of behind the scenes pictures, pretty much nostalgic promos of our favorite TV shows and movies. Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps, So Weird, Erie, Indiana, The Addams Family, all whatever brought us into the horror genre is what I want to celebrate with my Horror4Kids account. So that's what I do.
Could not have a more perfect guest for today's topic, and I'm so psyched to have you here. I'm actually such a big fan of Horror4Kids, so I'm kind of starstruck right now. Literally, I come across you guys every day. Not long ago, you guys posted, I don't even think that they had a name, but an actor that was auditioning for the original Addams Family for Uncle Fester. It's crazy inside stuff that if you're a horror fan, you gotta check out Horror4Kids.
Thank you so much for that. And the crazy part is, I find a lot of people think that I just know everything that pertains to Horror4Kids, and that's not true at all. I'm literally learning as I go. I'm researching. I'm doing a lot of looking through behind the scenes videos, and so I'm learning as I go, which has just been so much fun. I can't even explain to you the joy that I get, finding out new facts about movies that we all love, and sharing them with everyone. It honestly has been so much fun, and having the chance to talk to amazing podcasters and accounts like yourself, and just the whole horror community has just been so welcoming. It's been amazing.
You're itching a really specific area of horror that is like so important to all of us, which is gateway horror. And I think like that's why people are really responding to your outlet and the account, because the content is just so nostalgic and wholesome, and I don't know, it's always fun. I'm a big fan, and you guys have gone viral a couple of times. I've noticed there was this alien video that like broke the internet. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So in my research and in my scouring of the internet for family-friendly horror content, I found this clip of a body double that they used of Sigourney Weaver for the Aliens film. And here's the thing too, like, because this is a kid's account, I often have to really like review and kind of like look at what I'm posting and make sure that it's family friendly. And so I like a lot of times when I do post something from like a franchise that isn't necessarily geared towards kids, it's still in like a pretty family friendly or a behind the scenes light that kind of would show a kid or a teen that like it's not real kind of thing. So to see that body double and like the way that it was moving and just crinkling and crunching was really kind of cool. And I think that really like resonated with a lot of people who had no idea that that even existed, and were just so amazed to see like that type of behind the scenes work.
I mean, it's all so magical. But to get right into the topic today, what is your personal relationship with Are You Afraid of the Dark? When is the first time you encountered this franchise?
So I'm a 90s kid. I was born in 92. Are You Afraid of the Dark had started 2 years prior to that, but I must have been like maybe like as early as like maybe 6 years old, like 5, 6 years old. The first couple episodes that I remember, or like my parents loved that show too. So there's like it was just such a moment in like my childhood that I really loved, and that meant a lot to me. And which I think why like and we briefly touched on this too. Like it's just such a comfy '90s vibe to it.
Oh, big time, especially for fellow Canadians. I think there's just something about the look and feel of the show that takes you directly into Canadian suburbia late 90s. And that's a
Totally,
magical thing.
totally. Like for some reason, it just seems like such a magical time. Like I don't know. Like I feel like I have this thing where it's like people were a lot more, I guess, like communal. Like I remember like
Mhm.
Halloween, like the whole street was out for Halloweens, and like just it just seemed like such a, I guess, such a more innocent time, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, big time. And TV kind of felt more innocent back then. I'm
Yeah.
wondering, like, well, for me, Are You Afraid of the Dark goes so hand in hand with watching YTV on a Friday night, and maybe
Oh,
even more specifically, like Halloween season YTV when they did, I think it was called The Dark Knight. Is that
oh
correct?
my God! It's called The Dark Knight. PJ Phil. I am so amazed that
Yeah.
you remember that.
Oh yeah.
PJ
I mean, oh yeah.
and Paul McGuire, was it Paul McGuire? I think it
Oh,
was.
I have to trust you on that.
They had that. Yeah, so it was Paul. Sorry, Pat McGuire. It was PJ Phillip and Pat McGuire. They had the Dark Knight segments that read all through the 90s. The last one I believe was Dark Knight 5. I could be wrong about that, but the two of them, like I believe I read that that was kind of like their idea. Like they came up with that, and it just goes to show. Like I feel like the amount of care that went into TV back in the day, like for two hosts slash anchors to put together these like segments for kids that were just so memorable is just
Mhm.
unbelievably cool.
Yeah, and for people that maybe don't remember, they were just these kind of, yeah, it was Friday night around October. They would do these like spooky Friday night themes called the Dark Night, where they would play a bunch of scary programming like Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark. But as you were saying, they also did these like segments in between that were kind of like short horror movies, or like kind of short segments of
Like wow,
original horror content. And they were
wow,
so low budget, but they were
yeah,
so charming and so ingrained in every Canadian's memory.
like you can't forget that. Those are some of the best times, and like I'm not sure if you remember as well, but they used to have contests. Like you could win like the Dark Knight T-shirts
Whoa.
or
What I would give
Goosebumps.
for a Dark Knight t-shirt.
Goosebumps. Oh my god, wouldn't that be so retro? That'd be so awesome. Or
That's
like
so good. Did you ever win? Did you ever submit to any of this?
I never won once, and like I
Oh.
remember like having my little like home phone right there, like on go as soon as it was time to call, but I never won. I did win a YTV contest though, but it was never for the Dark Knight. It was for, I'm not sure if you remember, there was a movie called The Warriors of Virtue.
No.
Okay, nobody's heard of it before.
Okay.
Nobody I swear to God, I don't know how I came across it, but it premiered on YTV, this movie called Warriors of Virtue, and I loved it. And they had a contest for it, and my mom entered me in it, and we won. So that was it. But nobody remembers that movie. It's like something that never happened. It's so weird.
But I love that. I love that like Canadian era of content that like did it even exist or did we hallucinate it? That's like my favorite subgenre. One of the
Love
big
that.
ones that I think a lot of us share of like collective hallucination show. Do you remember the Odyssey?
I knew you were going to say that.
Because it's the main one. Yeah,
I
yeah.
I knew you were going to say that. That's so unbelievable. And what's so cool about that is the last podcast that I did, it was with an American podcaster who the two of them have an obsession with like Canadian like 90s TV, and
Whoa.
they were asking me like the name of this show and the way they were describing it because they couldn't figure it out. And I was like, is that the Odyssey? And they're like, they looked it up and they literally like their minds were blown. And like, honestly, me and my dad used to watch that, and my dad used to be like, I don't know what we're watching, but we're not turning the channel because it's so good. It was so crazy.
It's something about it. It's like, yeah, no one has seen it, but we've all kind of dreamt it. For people that might remember, I guess it was a Canadian show, but I don't know. I can't confirm that. But there was this kid that was like in a coma, and he had these friends, and they were going on this like hero's journey to like get him out of the coma, is my memory. But I could be having this backwards. And
Yes,
so like the kids in real life would be going through their like daily dramas, and then you'd like go into the kid in a coma, and like he'd be on his like Odyssey, and it was only on at 3 a.m. on YTV in like 1998.
that's the best way to describe it ever. That's perfect.
I love that you could help those Americans find their peace. That's very beautiful.
They were stunned. Like they were trying to figure out the name of it, and they were like, they've been at it for years. They said so. Like
Wow, I believe it. I believe it. This is not the first time. I hear about this all the time. It's like, it's this weird effect on people. There's one that I remember, just like how you had that film that like is lost to just your subconscious. I have one for me too, and I'm wondering if you're going to be the first person to remember it, but I doubt it because no one's ever remembered it.
Okay.
It wasn't a movie. It was an Australian TV show called Round the Bend. Oh, you're breaking my heart. Yeah, it was this weird Australian show, and this like weird Australian family. I think they lived in a lighthouse or near a lighthouse, and it was just so fucking weird. What?
Was it like a cartoon?
No, it was live action.
Oh.
See, and it's okay. And this is how it is. This is my fate. I have to be alone with Round the Bend for the rest of my life, and I think that's beautiful for me. So.
I'm happy for that's
Thank
how
you.
I am with Virtue.
Yeah.
We'll take it to the grave. That's fine.
Yes, and
That's
honestly,
fine.
are they real? We cannot confirm.
Cannot confirm that.
We can't
Round the
confirm.
Bend, I'm gonna have to look that up because I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
And there was this really insane episode that I'll never forget, because I was this like queer kid in the 90s, and they had this like insane, really nightmarish episode where like the boy in the family like gets like not in a trans way, in like a weird 90s way, gets like a strange gender reversal. And for me, it was like the first time I'd ever encountered that kind of thing. And it was a lot of questions were brought to the table with that bizarre episode.
Far like ahead of its time, which
but not in a good way. But yeah,
but not in a good way. I feel like the 90s really, whether they did it successfully or not, were really like trying to push ahead of their time. Like if you look at old episodes of like Boy Meets World and like 90s sitcoms, they tackled a lot of issues that I don't know if today's would be brave enough to tackle. But yeah, it's something really cool.
The TV went hard in the 90s, but specifically Canadian TV, and even more specifically, Are You Afraid of the Dark, just went all in. And since we're on the topic of that, would you mind if I gave like a bit of a seminar on the history of Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Please school us.
Okay, well, as you probably already know, and everyone at home may remember, Are You Afraid of the Dark was this horror anthology series created by YTV in the 90s, I think started in 1990, and was distributed by Nickelodeon in the States. So it ran basically from 1990 to 1996. This was our original run of this YA kind of young teen horror anthology series, created by DJ McHale and Ned Candle, with this Canadian company named Cinar. If you're Canadian, you know the logo. And it was shot in BC, as well as Quebec, specifically like the Montreal area. It had a very iconic cast. The main deck of characters, their names were Gary, Betty Ann, Kiki, Frank, Tucker. We had a Kristen. I think there was an Eric. These kids were iconic. But something that was what stands out for me and makes the show so special for me and my little nostalgia brain, I think, is the production design. You had this show and it was wonky. It kind of had this very French existential sort of surrealist energy, but it was this fairly simple kids show. So I think that's part of why it like kind of had this uncanny valley effect on all of these little Canadian kids in the 90s, because they went really hard on the art department on the show. And even now, when you rewatch it, it's beautiful and weird and dripping with just like uncanny, surreal, like artfulness. Are you with me on this?
You literally, the way you phrased that was beautiful. Like I couldn't agree anymore. That's exactly it. The art department, the amount of thought that went into everything. Like I mean, like the outfits, like the aesthetic, the lighting, everything just screamed like 90s like horror almost. And it was such a great thing to see and to revisit. The everything from like the makeup, like the hairstyling, it's just so unapologetically 90s Canadian that I love it.
Yeah, like big time. And Americans might not have like a reference for this, but Canadian film in the 90s was all kind of like, if it had its own mark, I think that mark was kind of strange, like kind of surreal. Like some of the Canadian horror movies of the time, you had movies like Cube, Ginger Snaps, like everything kind of had a bit of an edge at that time.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we were trying to, I think, really kind of like carve out a name for ourselves, for sure.
And the main production designer, I'm not even going to attempt to say his name unless you know how, because I don't want to butcher it. Do you want to give it a try? It's Riel Prulo. I can't. No, I'm destroying it. Do you have a sense of what this person's name is?
I do. Let me see if I can give it a better.
Save me from myself.
That's okay. I have it here.
I can see it, but like I could. It's a stumping one.
I think that it's Prolu.
Yeah, what you said. Yeah, I think it's this dude that really brought the magic to the show. Absolutely. He would go on to work on the art department on movies like Shutter Island, The Aviator, and The Day After Tomorrow. So like this man was bringing his A game, and I think it's part of why I like the show so much.
Like honestly, you can honestly like maybe even think of like Are You Afraid of the Dark as his like kind of introduction to like the art and film. Like what he went on to do in Shutter Island and like The Day After Tomorrow, the Aviator, is just unbelievable work, and it's amazing to think that the blueprint of that kind of started with Are You Afraid of the Dark, which you can clearly see some really vast like examples of.
Mm-hmm. And then Scorsese would pick him up, of course. And I don't know, do you think that there's an overlap between French cinema and French Canadian cinema? Do you think they share a certain je ne sais quoi?
I think they do. You know, like we I mean, I can't really speak for Quebecers, but I think there is like there is almost like an imitation is the best form of flattery kind of thing there, where we've tried to kind of take themes from French cinema, specifically from like the art viewpoint of that, and kind of incorporate into our own, if that makes sense. Just like how we kind of like have poutine. It's like our own version of what French is supposed to be, right?
Yes,
so
totally.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this weird hybrid of like, art house French and like East Coast Stephen King spookiness.
However, I would say though that you tying in like a reference to French cinema is the first time that I've viewed it in that light, and it's just blowing my mind, like how accurate that is. That's a really great lens of seeing it through, for sure.
I really appreciate that, and I can just tell that we are really passionate about this show, and like people that get it, and it might be hard. Like it's a hybrid, I think, of like glossy nostalgia, but also, as we were saying, this like uncanny surrealism that is like really left an imprint on us, maybe even like a bit of a trauma on us, but like in a cool
you know
way.
What, in a very cool way. Like it was, as I said, I was born in 92, so me watching Are You Afraid of the Dark growing up was my first experiences with a lot of themes in horror. Like for example, up until like Laughing in the Dark or Crimson Clown, I thought all clowns were good. I thought all clowns were this symbolism of fun, and then I learned through Are You Afraid of the Dark that like the whole theme of like a killer clown or like an evil clown, episodes like the gruesome
Ghastly Grinner.
Ghastly Grinner. That's not okay. Ghastly Grinner is like its own thing. Like,
oh yeah,
like the how iconic Ghastly Grinner is, and like especially if you want to talk about like vibes and like 90s feel, like that whole bus scene where he gets on the bus, like and
wait, for people that might not know, or even if they do, can you tell us a little bit about what the episode The Tale of the Ghastly Grinner was all about?
Ghastly Grinner was about an aspiring comic book artist. Now my details might be a little off here, but the bulk of it was he was an aspiring comic book artist. A new comic book shop had just opened up in town. He got an invitation to go to it. When he gets there, he finds out that it's run by this woman who kind of secretly is like recruiting him to become this, like to help her with this evil that's been unleashed. And so I think she gives him the comic of the Ghastly Grinner, I think that's how it goes. He takes it home, and when he takes it home is when like things start to get a little crazy. I think the first instance of it was he puts it in like the microwave or something like that. I remember it in the microwave, and it blows up. And when it blows up, the Ghastly Grinner is loose. And for the remainder of the episode, he's just haunting this kid and terrorizing him, and like in ways that are like real horror. Like for example, that bus scene first of all, like when the Ghastly Grinner bursts through the microwave, the first two people like he possesses are his parents, which like to see them oozing this like blue like what was it, like slime out of their mouth and have this real zombie, that again was like one of the first times I as a kid had seen that kind of like not really possession, but like, like just like a takeover of a body and turning it into something that's demonic essentially. And so from there, like, there's instances where he's on the bus, and the bus driver, all of a sudden his head spins around like the Exorcist, and he's drooling this blue ooze, and it's like, these are terrifying scenes for a kid who like like doesn't at this point now has no parental security or support.
Yeah, he's on his own
Out here in the world. I think he had a girl there who he had met in class, or who was like a fellow comic book fan. And so like the whole episode is him and her trying to navigate how they're going to defeat the ghastly grinner. And it turns out he actually has to rewrite or like finish off the comic, which is what the girl had recruited him to do in the first place. And that's how they do it. But just a terrifying and iconic episode, like one of the scariest. It's on my honorable mentions.
Yeah,
and I do have a couple other favorites, but it's on my honor. No, it's definitely
on mine too.
It's like it's teetering between honorable mention and like making my top 5.
The only reason it's not on my top 5 is because I'm a pretentious piece of shit, and I had to pick things that like not everybody else knew as well. But if I was going to be fully honest, like it maybe deserves a place in the top 5. I think it's probably the quintessential episode that fucked up kids in the 90s, and that's really special.
Totally. Especially if you were like, who wasn't into comic books in the 90s? Like, right? Like,
oh yeah, it's all we had.
Yeah, it's all we had. We didn't have all this new cool stuff. But yeah, so like especially that they tied it in with something that we loved and really like implemented a horror element there was really cool.
And he was a fucking clown, and there's nothing scarier than like, they knew because they did the scary clown thing at least 3 or 4 times on Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yes,
and they did it good every time.
Every single time, from episode like what was it, like 2
3
with 3 with Laughing in the Dark. Come on, like,
I just rewatched it too.
The way it starts with the carnival, like come on, vibes.
So good.
Every like fall carnival I've ever been to here in Ontario, which I used to love, like all the fall carnivals. So it was just it's so nostalgic.
I love those cheesy, cheap, dark rides now, those like spook houses, and I think it's because of that Laughing in the Dark episode. When I was in grade 11, I got a job at this horror theme park in Toronto called Screamers for October. Oh yeah. And I did a bunch of shit, but at the very, very back, aside from all like of the modern scary mazes, at the very back, you had this like old rundown spook house, and it's all I ever wanted to go on. I think it's because of this show.
So my experience with Screamers is a little different than yours. My parents took me to Screamers when I was entirely way too young. I think I must have been honestly like 7 or 8, and I think they thought that it was kind of going to be like Canada's Wonderland's kind of Halloween haunt type of thing. But Screamers is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've never been back since that day. But it's a little bit more mature.
Oh yeah, it's like, for adults. It's like Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando.
I remember. So my dad tells the story the best, but he's like, we went through the outside maze, and I guess towards the end of it, like a man with a chainsaw pops out at you.
Yep.
My dad said that, like a Scooby-Doo cartoon, my legs started to move and run, but I was so scared that I wasn't even moving. And he literally had to pick me up and like carry me for the rest of the maze. Cause like I remember being terrified. Screamers was so cool, but I was so scared. And like,
it's scary.
That definitely shaped my love for horror at a very, very young age. So to hear that you work there is so cool.
It's one of the scary. I still can't do like haunted mazes and stuff like that. Working there was one thing, but like I'm too much of a baby. Can I quickly tell you my favorite story from working at Screamers? Yes, so this is my favorite thing that I ever did at Screamers. They had this one. It was like a bunch of different mazes, like horror mazes, and one of them was called the Black Hole. And all all that happened in the black hole, it was pitch black, and you followed this little red light, and every once in a while there'd be like scare actors to jump out and like spook you, or like a flash of light or smoke, or other than that, it was just pitch black, and you just had to wait until people scared you. And so one day I was working in this maze, and I could see them coming because I could like see them walking, like the guests walking in from the light. And what I would do is I would like wait until they would say their name. So they'd be like, "Oh, Jenny, I'm so freaked out." And then I'd follow that group for like a little bit too long. And then they'd be like, and then like someone would like grab me and I'd go, "I'm not Jenny." And every time they like crapped themselves. It was a really good setup.
That's so good. That is so good. You are a rock star for that.
It made the time go by faster.
I would go back now and like, okay, now this is always something that I've always like kind of been on the fence. Was there like a video, like was there like a theater in there as well?
There was. That's so funny you brought that up. So they had a live show
of dismembering.
Yeah, I think so. And honestly, that's what I would like. That was my main gig, is because like I went to theater school in Toronto, and like whenever we got there, like, "What do you like?" And I was like, "Theater." So they put me in the play, and yeah, there was a live play where they would like pretend to like kill people on stage.
Yes,
and that's what I did. And I remember I had like a blood pack in my mouth, and they would pick me out of the audience like a fake, like a plant in the audience. And they would like stab me in the neck, and the blood would go out everywhere. Stuff like that.
God,
it was a good year.
What I remember. I remember like there being a table on the stage, and there's being so much blood. And my mom at one point was like, "Okay, maybe we should like take him out. This is getting a little."
Yeah,
I was scared.
Kids.
They totally thought it was, and so I was there.
So
I remember being like, "This is not for kids. Like, this is crazy. This is so scary."
To this day, I won't do like a haunted house or a maze if there's scare actors. I just absolutely can't. It's too much for me.
We have to go though. Like, if it's back in October, will you go?
Done.
Oh, okay.
Yes, 150%. 150%. It's happening.
We'll get together some like horror people in the city, and we'll totally go. That sounds awesome. Because
I love that. We should and film it. I'm down.
That would be awesome. Let's do
it. I love it. Okay, I'm wondering, like, I have to know, what are some of your favorite episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark? I asked you to bring in a couple. So, would you say you have like a definitive top 5?
Yes, I have a top 5. I do have a couple honorable mentions as well. And my honorable mentions are more like ones that have like there's something personal there for me.
Okay.
But I do have a top 5 for sure.
Definitely. So why don't we start with you? Why don't we start with, let's hear your proper top 5 before we hit your honorable mentions, because I just have to know.
Okay, so my proper top 5, in no order, but are The Tale of the Frozen Ghost.
Nice.
That's in there. Okay. My next one is The Tale of the Shiny Red Bicycle.
Classic.
Love that one. The Tale of Apartment 214.
Ooh, damn.
He is like one of the in my top 3 of one of the scariest episodes in the
What does the old lady say to her? You said you'd hang up.
Okay, hang on. Wait. The whole thing was because she had said that she would be with her on the day that she told her to be there.
Yeah.
And what happened was her friend came by and was like, "Oh, I've got these tickets to this concert. Let's go to the concert." And what ended up happening was that day was the day that woman had died like years ago. And she was so alone that day. And so it turned into this like such a horror movie. It was crazy.
So good. It's so scary and sad. Like, they really hit the tragedy of the horror with that one.
Yes, and the build-up with, like, literally, like, because you have to, like, remember, like, she was spending, like, months with this woman, like, in her apartment, doing things with her, and she was dead the whole time.
Dead as a ghost. Yeah, this, like, really cutesy old lady, like, kind of out of a fairy tale book.
Yes.
Like, really kind, and this like younger girl hangs out with her every day, and they kind of become friends. Yeah, and then it turns out that she's a ghost. That's a scary one.
That's so scary. And like the superintendent, when he's like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. There hasn't been anyone in that room since whatever." That's when like the ball dropped, and it's like,
Yeah, and you're
what?
like, oh fuck.
That
Yeah, I
was
know. Stuff
so
like that we were not ready for. We just weren't
not.
prepared for that. And I love that.
I did put the gas. I'm gonna slide the ghastly grinner in there after I talk. Is that one? That
He
was my
deserves
top
it.
one. Yeah, totally deserves it. And then my last one would be the Tale of the Night Nurse, which was the last one, like the series finale, which I thought they did such an amazing job with. Do you remember
Season
that?
7?
Yes,
Or
season 7.
okay, so
Yeah.
that was like the first revival series. I actually am not as familiar with those last 2 seasons.
Oh my
What
god.
was that
Okay.
one about?
The Tale of the Night Nurse it's terrifying. It's pretty much these sisters go and visit their grandfather.
Mhm.
And what happens is it's okay. The grandfather knows that something weird is happening in the house, so that's already like something strange there. Like he tells them like I think the two of them like saw like a vision of like a girl in the house, and he's like, oh no, that's nothing. But secretly like he knows that there's some weird things happening. So what's happening is the ghost of a nurse is terrorizing these two teen girls, trying to give one of them a needle with penicillin in it. And so, like, the girl will literally, like, wake up in the middle of the night, and there's a nurse standing over her with this big-ass needle saying, like, you have to take your shot. You have to take your shot. And she, like, shows up in the scariest places, like, telling her she has to take this shot. But what happens, like, what pretty much what happened was the nurse was there at the house before the grandfather and all that, and she was tending to this little girl at the house. The little girl was sick, and I think the nurse gave her a shot of penicillin, but was accused of giving her like poison or something. What it turned out was the girl was allergic to the penicillin, so she died, and the nurse was blamed for killing this girl. So now these two teen girls have to like rectify that via like going back into the vision and telling the nurse like, no, this little girl is allergic to penicillin before she kills her. And it's just the way that she terrorizes them though is so scary.
I love that. What an iconic name for a villain too, the Night Nurse. Like that would be a good movie.
Oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. So that was the
I gotta
season.
watch that.
Now, yes, and like literally tell me like what you think because I'm so excited for you to watch it.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. And then a couple of my honorable mentions: The Tale of the Pinball Wizard. I loved that one. This just like literally just that mall vibe, that '90s mall vibe. You can't beat that. And like the fact that like it started like the whole being left alone in a mall after it closed. That was a whole thing in the '90s, like fear and like just the things that happened in the mall. It was so amazing, that whole episode. Loved that one. Laughing in the Dark, of course. That was the first time I was exposed to
scary clown.
Yeah, exactly. A scary clown. The Tale of the Lonely Ghost. I love that one. That one was so and like
it's
like
sad.
Heartfelt. Yeah. Like on top of like the scares, which like you have this girl like in a mirror, like the heartfelt was just so nice and wholesome.
Did you say Frozen Ghost was on your list too?
Yeah, the Frozen Ghost.
I'm
love
cold. It's like me every day in Canada.
Well, that's what the whole Canadian thing was. And like my family, like my mom and dad, who I mentioned, loved the show as well. Like every winter, they would like scare me and do that voice and like hug themselves and go, "I'm cold. I'm cold." It became like a family joke, literally. It was so
I
good.
love that for you guys. That's good.
So good. And
that's so true. I wrote an article for Dread Central in the middle of winter about that episode. Yeah, just because I was so cold. And
I have to go back and read that.
I'll
awesome.
share it with you. It's very important to me.
Dread Central is really amazing.
Yeah, that's where we're at today. So yeah, we're big fans. We're all big fans of horror for kids, by the way, over at Dread Central. Just so you know.
Thank you so much. Love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We're huge fans of yours too, believe me.
Oh, I love to hear it. So, would you be interested in hearing some of my top 5
I would
picks?
love, let's hear it. Let's
Oh,
literally, this is the best conversation I've had. Let's hear it.
this is all I ever want to talk about. I'll be honest with you, 100%.
No,
So okay, I tried to watch all of these for this episode, and the one that I found to be the absolute scariest was the Tale of the Night Shift. I think this was like that last episode or ish for season 3. Do you remember this one?
the tale of was that the one where they are in like the hospital?
Yes. So there's something about hospital horror that always gets me. Like, I don't know if you're a Buffy person, but my favorite episode of Buffy is called Killed by Death. And there's this like really scary kind of Freddy Krueger-esque monster walking around the hospital killing kids. And it's like my absolute favorite Buffy episode. And this episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark is so similar. So yeah, it takes place in a hospital overnight, and our main character is like a hospital candy striper or like volunteer. And we learn that there's this like really scary vampire in the basement that is like preying on everybody in the hospital until basically he gets everybody. And the creature effects on this guy are like terrifying. Like they went way too hard on it, and I love it.
Loved it. Love that. That's one of my favorite ones. There's a scene in that one too where like he's coming, or like one of the kids that he bit are coming into like the staircase. There's like a staircase scene, and like staircases already are like so like small, and to be caught with like a killer child vampire in one of those was terrifying.
I love it so much. It's so good. And also like I love the hospital setting. And the evil vampire appears as this like nice girl named Margot, and she is just like a gay icon. I just think there's something about this Margot. Like I love her so much. And all these actors in this episode are actually really bringing it too. So
they are serving the whole
they're
episode.
Bringing it.
So good.
A couple other ones that I'm just going to fly through that I love are The Tale of the 13th Floor, which is kind of like a sci-fi moment. We have The Whispering Walls, which is like a spooky kind of Shining inspired one. Yes, I love that one too. There's The Bookish Babysitter, about this like babysitter with books that really fuck you up when you read them.
Then the one because the Bookish Babysitter, the only reason that it wasn't on my list was because I took a quick peek and saw it on your list. But the Bookish Babysitter totally made mine too. I love that one. It's so scary, and the fact that it's happening like in his house is even scarier.
Oh, I love that, and I love that it's all about the power of the imagination. So yeah, since we're talking about it, there's this like kid that like hates having babysitters, so his mom like gets the babysitter for kids that like hate babysitters, and she's this like weirdo teenage girl with like spiky blonde bangs, and she has these like magical books, and she's like trying to make him read them, and then when he does, they're like old school scary fairy tales. They immediately come to life. So all these like scary phantoms and witches and monsters like appear in his house. Kind of has like a Freddy Krueger vibe too, because like all these like these scariest things ever invade your most like personal space.
Yes, I love it.
So good. And the very last one on my list is The Tale of the Dangerous Soup, starring Neve Campbell. One of my favorites.
That one was iconic. Neve Campbell, like a Canadian like gem, honestly.
Oh yeah, what a legend. I was watching it today and I was thinking like, obviously she got Scream because of Party of Five. But like, I hope that casting director watched this episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark, because she was giving.
She nailed her role. It was so good. So good.
She was so good. Yeah, there's this. So like the whole gist is like there's this like chef that like makes a soup, and the secret ingredient is fear. So he has this like back room where if you go in it, you like see whatever scares you the most. And Neve Campbell's fear is like claustrophobia. So all of a sudden the walls just slowly start like going in on her till like you think it maybe will crush her. It's fucked up.
It is awesome. It is awesome. It's
I
so
love
good.
it.
I love that one too. That's one of my favorites as well. I know you said that you haven't really checked out the last 2 seasons. Did you have a chance to ever watch The Tale of the Gruesome Gourmets?
No, tell me more immediately.
All the gruesome gourmets shook me to my core as a kid because it was the first time that I had been exposed to cannibalism, and like the,
Oh.
the thought that like people were eating people like blew me away. And I remember being like, episode when it finished, I remember being like, ah, like, that's gross. Like
Whoa, they
it,
did a cannibal episode. Good for them.
yeah, they did a cannibal episode where like and again, kids show, so they had to really kind of like be on that line, but the implications were totally there. Like the
Mhm.
freezer theme, like it was creepy. It was really creepy.
I will absolutely be watching that after this
Okay,
because
please, unlike
I
really,
yeah, in Canada we have all of Are You Afraid of the Dark for free officially streaming on YouTube. Are you aware of this?
I am aware of it. Yes, I am aware of it.
Nice.
I have took it upon myself to like grab all of them from YouTube and kind of
Smart.
like hoard them on this like iCloud drive that I have. So I
So
literally
smart.
have created like a playlist and I pretty much sleep to that every night. I'm so
I
late.
I love that you mentioned that to me, and I'm actually gonna do the same thing.
Oh no,
I'm
honestly,
finishing. Yeah. Oh yeah,
it's
that's gonna be my next
it
fall
literally
asleep watch.
especially if like you can catch an episode that kind of has like a nighttime theme. Oh my god,
Oh, absolutely. Which is like
it's
a lot of them.
a
Yeah.
lot of
I
just
yeah, this is gonna be my next. I might go through it all chronologically because
yeah,
that's where I'm
totally.
at
You'll
emotionally.
get to a point where like you like now I'm at the point now where like I might start like if I know I'm gonna fall asleep in a few episodes, I'll start with like one that's maybe not my favorite and like kind of like
Smart.
work my way to like there's you'll totally get the hang of it. So
Oh, I love
it's
that. So by the time
one of
you're
the
like falling asleep, like the good stuff is infiltrating your mind brain. Nice.
serotonin is just kicking in. Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. That's like a good way to get some spooky dreams.
Yeah,
Um,
it's so good.
so I don't know too much about the 2019 revival. I was thinking maybe we could talk about it just for like half a second before we get into the canceled movie. What's your
Let's
relationship with the miniseries that came out in October of 2019?
Well, I was just like thrilled that a revival of one of my favorite series growing up was coming back, and even though they didn't like follow the anthology kind of format, I
Mhm.
thought it was extremely well done. I thought, especially like there were some genuinely great scares in it, and I liked that it was kind of short and sweet. I really liked the 3 episode format. I love the 2021 reboot as well. I just
Mhm.
I felt it was a little long, and some episodes were a little. I don't want to call them filler episodes, but they weren't
Mhm.
as. For example, the here's my honest assessment. Like the first episode of the 2021 reboot might be the scariest like episode in Are You Afraid of the Dark history. Point blank.
Whoa.
There are
Really?
there Yeah, the first episode of the 2021 reboot, there are literal like things that you would see in like The Conjuring, like Insidious. Like it is it's so scary. And then from
Whoa.
there I found it kind of trickled down a bit. There are some great quality scares throughout the series, but the first episode was like groundbreaking.
I'm gonna have
And
to check
I
that
love
out.
the 2019 reboot was a little bit more consistent with its scares through the 3 episodes. They were really good scares, but man, I'll never forget. Like I happened my younger cousin happened to be with me here from the States, and just at the time that the 2021 reboot was premiering, and he is 13, and
Mhm.
we watched the first episode, and he was like, "That was horrifying." He's like, "This is for kids," and I'm like, "Yes, this is the Are You Afraid of the Dark that I remember. Like, give me this."
Yeah, it needs to be pushing the boundaries of like what will fuck up a kid. I think that's what
Well,
makes it so special. So I'm glad that they're still pushing those lines.
yeah, and like just like the to see now, like I think it was somebody did like a live tweet of like the 2021 like first episode, and it was like this big Twitter moment, like "Are You Afraid of the Dark" is back, and it was just so cool to be like a part of, and I just thought it was so awesome, so awesome. So I'm glad that they've even signed on to have a third season now, which is phenomenal.
Yes.
I'm really excited for that too. So
do we know anything about what the third one's going to be about?
The third one is
Ghost Island.
Ghost Island. Yes, that's right. Yeah, and I don't think there's too many details out right now.
Okay.
But I am super pumped, and I am looking out for anything that drops.
Yeah, so, we have some Are You Afraid of the Dark on the horizon, and that's not something we can always say. So I am grateful. I gotta watch that second series though. I'm a little bit behind.
That's totally cool. You know what? Like the first one in 2019 was 3 episodes, so it was like something that you can do in like a day.
Yeah.
But this, the 2021 one, I believe, is 8 episodes.
Okay. They're going bigger.
So longer, right? But the story is really good though. Really good.
I wonder if there was going to be a 2021, but maybe COVID got in the way.
Maybe.
No, because it maybe would have been a little early for that. Either way, we're getting it, and I kind of love to see it. How are you feeling? Do you think it's time for what everyone is sort of waiting for, which is a little bit of information, a little bit of backstory about this canceled Are You Afraid of the Dark movie?
Yes, I definitely think it's time to get into it. Let's get into what we could have had.
What we could, and like what could still be. Maybe. We don't know.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. All right.
I feel like
so, yes. Sorry?
With like, I just feel like especially now with like, like Paramount Plus coming out, and there's all kind of like new streaming like powerhouses. I feel like there's definitely a chance that we do get
this
movie. Yeah.
I want to think so too. And I think we'll like see at the end if these sort of miniseries are sort of taking its place, or like there's going to be room for both. We're going to have to find out.
I would love room for both. I think that like if we can do like kind of like what the Chucky season 1 kind of did.
Oh yeah.
Like, that into like a movie at the end of it, that would be like amazing.
I mean, and I don't know about you, but I am missing the anthology format. That is like something that like that I'm happy that we have those new series, but they're not scratching the nostalgic itch of the like anthology. Yeah.
And you know what it is too is that as Canadians we had Are You Afraid of the Dark? We had Goosebumps, but we also had one that a lot of people don't remember or know about, which was Freaky Stories.
Damn straight, we had Freaky Stories.
With another anthology, right? So we were raised with like anthologies. That's how we associate kind of like the X-Files even, like, right? So it's just like so we definitely prefer an anthology based series.
Yeah, our brains kind of work in that way, and I don't know if the youngins, the Gen Zs, if they would appreciate it as much, and maybe that's why they're leaning away from it. But it's my fave. Is a good anthology series.
You know what though? Here's the thing. We did one of the more recent horror series for kids, which is Creeped Out. 2 seasons of that. It's a phenomenal show. That was an anthology based series as well, and that did really well. So I'm hoping that they can kind of see how well that did and kind of turn that into something more modern too.
Yes, I think I'd like that too. I think the whole Ryan Murphy American Horror Story like season anthologies is kind of what people think our audiences are after now. And I kind of get that because they have their place and they're fun. But I like something quick and chewy.
I agree.
And, like episode by episode.
I agree.
So if it's okay with you, I think I'm going to jump into some of this nitty-gritty details about this canceled movie that we almost got.
Please.
So
let's go.
All the way back in 2019, we got this announcement that Nickelodeon was going to release an Are You Afraid of the Dark movie. We had a logo, we had a release date, everything seemed ready to go. even so much so that at the 2018 CinemaCon, Paramount showed off this like rough sort of poster art, and it really seemed like things were underway. There was reports. Everything is very reportedly and very allegedly, but there were reports online that DJ Caruso was potentially going to direct. Then there were reports later on that he was replaced by Dean. I don't know how to say that, so I'm just going to keep going. And something that's very interesting about this development hell feature is that we were allegedly going to see a script from Mr. Gary Dauberman. Gary Dauberman, if people don't know, is like deeply ingrained in mainstream horror right now. This is the dude that wrote Annabelle. He wrote Annabelle 2. He wrote It Chapter 2 and The Nun. And he also wrote and directed the third Annabelle, Annabelle Comes Home, which, if I'm going to be real, I liked quite a bit.
Love Annabelle.
Yeah, it's like, it's better than people think. It's very fun and very spooky. And yeah.
Yeah, like you totally nailed it. And of those movies that like he's like been associated, that he's wrote, not associated with, like, okay, if you look at It Chapter 2, you look at Annabelle Comes Home, there's a theme of like working with like children there. Like, and I really feel like he would have absolutely like nailed that. Like what he would have done with this movie would have been amazing. And I think there's a quote there too that he was like, or someone who is in charge of what the film was supposed to be said something along the lines of like they wanted this film to really like honor like how Nickelodeon pushed like the horror element of Are You Afraid of the Dark in the 90s, and it's just such a shame that like this was taken from us because this would have been so good.
I agree with you totally. Although I think at the end of the day, I'm a little bit polarized on Gary Dauberman. I really like a lot of his stuff, but I think sometimes this dude maybe pushes a little bit too much towards, I don't know, a little bit mainstream, a little bit safe, a little bit by the numbers. Like, I'm not a fan of that first Annabelle or The Nun, but Annabelle 2 creation is like surprisingly really fun and spooky. And the same goes with Annabelle 3.
I totally agree. Annabelle, so by Annabelle 3, you mean Annabelle Comes Home, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so sometimes my mind is like, it mixes these up a bit, but Annabelle Comes Home was my favorite one of the series because it was genuinely like terrifying. And I feel like they really like, there was so much more supernatural like elements to it than the first two. And I love the way that the ending of it tied into how the whole thing began in the first Annabelle movie with the daughter who came and killed her parents. It was like the way it all tied in was amazing, but we didn't get that until that last one, which is crazy. But I totally
and they weirdly get better as they go on. Yeah, I'm with you on that. And something that maybe people know, maybe they don't, is that the next big project for Gary Dauberman is he's writing and directing a big budget adaptation of Stephen King's Salem's Lot, which is probably going to come out, I think, this September, maybe October.
So good.
I can't wait.
I can't wait for that.
It might be my favorite Stephen King proper novel.
You know what? I'm yet to have seen I've seen parts of the original and I've read parts of the book, but I've never finished like either. So for me, I feel like this new like modern take on it will be the push that I need to kind of go back and really appreciate like the originals. So I'm really excited to have this new fresh take on it.
I am too. And it looks like I think I found the quote that you were talking about. So yeah, Dauberman spoke to the Hollywood Reporter about why he was so excited to potentially be working on an Are You Afraid of the Dark project. And he said, "We're going to celebrate and honor the darker, scarier tone of the show that was groundbreaking for Nickelodeon at the time." You're right. Like, he really nails it. Like, it seems like the guy completely gets what is special about this series.
Absolutely.
He also spoke. Oh yeah, no, please.
I think he in my research, I think he's like close with James Wan too.
Yes.
So I wonder if we would have gotten like even like a Wan influence on this movie as well.
Imagine.
Think about like James Wan's contribution to horror, what he could have. I know, right? What he could have implemented
It's
into
heartbreaking.
Dark, the franchise, could have been like monumental, right?
Oh, because James Wan is kind of like the energy that he brings sometimes is gateway horror, but then make it adult and like R-rated fucked up. Like Dead Silence is like an Are You Afraid of the Dark episode on steroids.
Yes, literally. You know what? That's the best way to put it. He makes like you think it's gateway horror, but it pushes it to like that R rated. That's a great way to put it. That's exactly it. Like, and there's even themes in like The Conjuring 2, where it's like there's so much like youthfulness to it. The toy, like the wind up toy that turned into like the clown man. Like there's so many elements of being a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he would have absolutely nailed it.
I think he would have too. And like when you brought up the chance that maybe there'd be like Atomic Monster or James Wan influence on this, like breaks my heart. The last thing is Dauberman had a conversation with Slash Films about potentially working on Are You Afraid of the Dark? And he said something along the lines of that he would come up with his original story, but that it still had he was still going to bring in the Midnight Society, and it was still going to have that campfire energy. So it was still going to be like these people around a campfire telling a story, and they were going to be the Midnight Society, which I love because it's the heart of the series.
It's the heart. Like the episode beginning and ending with that is what, like, I remember being a kid and like kind of for the most part feeling like all was okay as long as they made it back to like the campfire. Like no matter how crazy of a story that I just shot myself to as a kid.
Yeah, they're safe. They're like, we're back. Yeah,
exactly.
I agree.
That's totally a really important part of it.
Because it was all about imagination, and sometimes imagination can really fuck you up, and like, you know, people with anxiety can probably relate to it because, you know, absolutely. Panic is imagination, but it can still really ruin your day. So it's really like there's something safe about them all coming back at the end and getting that closure.
Absolutely, that was that closure. For a kid my age, that was important for me at the end of which is why episodes like the tale of the silver.
I forget, but I know. I think I know what you're talking about.
The 3-part
series. Quicksilver.
Quicksilver, yes, that was like so scary because it was like they were admitting that like this wasn't just a story. This was real. Like the tale of the silver. That's what it was.
Yes, there it is.
3-part series. Like that was unbelievable at the time, which was so good, and it came right before your. I think you had said the Lunar Locust was in your top ones.
I don't think so. I don't remember that one by name.
But yeah, it was because this was season 7 as well. But that 3-part series was so cool.
And we were saying that, like, generally at the end, like, there was closure and, like, everyone kind of came back to reality. But in these stories, like, they weren't like Goosebumps. Sometimes they did not have happy endings. Sometimes these kids were, like, fucked. And I liked how dangerous that was.
I loved that. Sometimes it was like, it wasn't a happy ending, like what you got in most of the Goosebumps episodes. It was like, this is how it was from this day on.
Yeah, which was like they're screwed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was at the end of the specs, the super specs or something. Like I think that one had a bad ending. A couple of them like had some bleak ends.
Yeah, some of them were not all that positive at all.
I love it.
Even there was a few of them that were just terrible.
And speaking of unhappy endings. The last we heard from Gary Dauberman is that he vocalized that he was no longer a part of the project and that, due to creative differences, he was going to have to part ways. And that was sort of the last we ever heard about the Are You Afraid of the Dark movie. There were a couple other names that were thrown into the ring post Dauberman, but nothing ever took off. And we were sort of just left with these revival series. And that leads me into conclusion territories. And I've got a question for you.
Yes.
And that question is, do you think we're ever going to get an Are You Afraid of the Dark movie? Like, if you really asked yourself and you looked inside of your heart, what does it say? Are we going to get a movie, or is it just going to be these limited series?
As much as I would love to see a movie, and as much as I would throw my entire support behind it, I have a hard time believing that they're going to take the risk. I mean, see, even like, because the Goosebumps movies did so well too, but for Are You Afraid of the Dark specifically, I feel like because it traditionally was an anthology show, I think a TV series is the way that this is going to pan out for the foreseeable future. I think that, there might be different people who come in and work on the series. I think that'll be kind of like that thing, but I think it's going to follow like a Stranger Things kind of vibe from this point moving forward, and we're not going to, I don't see us getting like a Hollywood release of an Are You Afraid of the Dark movie, unfortunately.
I think that you're right, but maybe it's okay, because as you were saying, it kind of thrives in the TV format. Anthology or narrative, like, maybe that's where it works.
Totally. Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
I'm just wondering, and you don't have to answer this, and if you don't have an answer, I can just take this all out, but do you, if you could hire someone to make an Are You Afraid of the Dark series or film, do you know what name you would put in the ring?
To make an Are You Afraid of the Dark series.
Mm-hmm. Can I give you mine while we think?
Yes.
It wasn't perfect, but I kind of liked the vibes of the Twilight Zone, Jordan Peele reboot.
I was gonna say Jordan Peele.
I think Jordan Peele would fuck up Are You Afraid of the Dark in the best way possible.
I think he would make it so. Okay. So here's I was in between Jordan Peele and Del Toro, and the reason I chose
Del Toro,
I think when you think about Pan's Labyrinth and his creature design, it would just be unbelievable. However, Jordan Peele also crossed my mind too. I think that the mental the fear that he would kind of implement into it would be amazing. The
psychological kind of what we were just saying, Twilight Zone vibe.
Yes, which
but you know what? I take it back. It has to be Guillermo del Toro, especially after Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which he's obsessed with.
Yes, exactly. I love that.
It's all down to him. And I don't know if you know this, you probably do. He's got a Netflix horror anthology series coming out in the next year or so called, I think, Cabinet of Curiosities.
I did not know that. I'm so excited.
And he has a slew of very cool directors and writers on it.
Are you serious? Is it for I'm sure it's for adults, but that sounds amazing.
I know. He's my hero.
No. So. Oh my god, I love that. And I had posted a clip on Horror4Kids a while ago about he had done an interview in which he had pretty much just said a lot of his inspiration comes from nightmares that he had as a kid and and things that he used to see not even he kind of implies that he legitimately used to see monsters and stuff in his imagination spirits and whatnot, and he pulls references from that to put into his movies. I just love that.
That's awesome. And his traveling art exhibit was called At Home with Monsters, so I totally believe it. He seems like someone that is relaxed around spooky monster stuff. He's just my hero.
He would do an absolutely amazing job. on that. Really
I love it.
random. Just as we're talking about like kind of like horror anthologies and whatnot, have you had the chance to check out on Netflix? It's called Haunted.
No, tell me more.
Oh my god, Haunted on Netflix is like one of my favorite things on earth right now. I mean, I've finished it, but I think there's a season 3 coming out. It pretty much, yeah, it's an anthology, but it's kind of like a circle group of like people that are retelling something that happened to them, or like, yeah. And so the stories, and so it kind of goes into like a recreation. It kind of goes back and forth of them in this circle of like their family and friends, like retelling the story, and then it goes into like what actually happened via like a retelling via actors and all that. But it is so scary. Every episode is a horror movie. It's one of the best things that I've seen in a very long time. If you have the chance to check it out, check it out. It's really good.
I literally just added it to my watch list, and I cannot wait. I'm probably going to watch it tonight, and I'm ready to be scared.
There's a couple episodes that are just like, I hope that we can have like another chat. Like this has been so much fun, and there's so much to talk about now. It's great. But yeah, check it out.
Yes.
There's 3 episodes that are just unbelievably scary.
We have to find a reason to podcast again one day, because like clearly we have, our hearts are in the same spot, and it's just so exciting to find someone else like that, because it's something you can't fake, It's kind of like part of who you are.
Horror has been like embedded in me from the time that I was a child. It's why I got into my career as a makeup artist, and it's something that I truly like deeply love. And it's so amazing to be able to like chat with someone, especially someone in like the GTA who is like so passionate about horror. That's
yeah. Well, you know what? You have a new friend. I literally will hang out whenever, and we gotta go to Screamers, but I'm already scared.
Yes, let's do it. My account's called Horror4Kids. I'm the biggest chicken ever. Here's something that not a lot of people know. I literally only started to watch like slasher films in 2019. Before then, I literally couldn't stomach the blood and gore, and I used to stick to like supernatural, exorcism, paranormal movies, and like squint through like even like Halloween, which has like no blood in it. And then something like, I don't know if it was COVID or what, something snapped in my head, and I was able to watch like all of them. And so like for the past, since 2019, I've like been catching up on all the movies that I was too chicken to ever watch, and just been like re-falling in love with horror all over again. So it's been really great.
I love to hear that, and I'm with you. I'm a big baby when it comes to horror, which is kind of why I still love gateway horror so much.
That's why literally.
If you wanted to be found online, where could people find you, and also where can people find Horror4Kids?
Yeah, so myself, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. It's just my first and last name, which is RAINIER Rainier Croft. Horror4Kids is on Twitter, it's on Instagram, and it's on Facebook as well, which is crazy because like I originally started it as just a Twitter page, and through doing podcasts with amazing like YouTubers and horror influencers and just amazing people like yourself, everyone was like, look, you gotta do like an Instagram account. And at first I was like, oh, that's so much work. I would love to, but I'm like, my hands are full with the Twitter account. But now like I'm so happy that I did like expand to Instagram and Facebook, because I've met even more like awesome, cool people. And it's just been so much fun. It's literally like the past 2 years of running this account has been so much fun. Like it's one of the most fun things I've ever done in my life, and I'm just having a blast with the whole community.
And I'm honestly so grateful, because I'm literally like your number one fan. It like makes my day every time I see a post. It's like my favorite on the internet. So
thank you so much.
I'm a grateful stan right here. Thank you so much for listening to Development Hell. If you enjoy this podcast, then please do us a major favor of leaving us 5 stars and writing a positive review. It really makes all the difference in the world. We'll see you next week with a brand new episode of Development Hell.
Thank you for listening to the Dread Podcast Network.